I mean, the main thing that comes to mind for me with John is, I would call it youthful exuberance, as both as a leader and as a board member and as a person who was very passionate about, the senator's contributions and the impact the senator had on John. And then more importantly, just his passion for the foundation and the work it does. And it seemed like every day 24 hours a day, John was just as youthful and exuberant as on the first day, as the second day, as on, 10 years later. And that's been, I think, a great motivator for all of us, and it inspired the board and the members of the board to want to do more and to do better.
I think that both I, and really speaking on behalf of the staff, have felt so supported by him, both in terms of the actual words and support and encouragement and cheerleading that he always conveyed in return emails and reply alls and thanking us, but also because of his willingness to show up. And I think we are all so grateful to him for his good cheer, his support, and his willingness to lead through ups and downs and to bring people together at the table. He's been a very inspiring leader for all of us on the staff.
John is by his very nature, an optimist. And I came to appreciate that about him because his optimism is consistent and unfailing, but it is ultimately grounded in reality. In other words, he sees a way to solve every problem, but he does recognize that there are problems to solve. He just thinks that no matter how big the problem is, we will get it solved. And during the course of his tenure, I think by and large we did.
So my directorship in the Jackson School coincided more or less exactly with John's position as the head of the Jackson Foundation. So over the last almost 10 years now, I have worked very closely with John. And I really appreciate his incredible support for what we are doing in this school, specifically in helping train the next generation of leaders in international affairs. I see John as someone who really, in a very determined way, carried the legacy of Senator Jackson, bridging this incredibly important relationship between education and international affairs. And his presence at the foundation made our job a lot easier.
It seems to me that the strategic vision that John has brought to the foundation helped not only shape the foundation's actions, but in turn has helped shape our own in terms of identifying opportunities for support to grow our center. The foundation support, of course, has been absolutely critical, but has also helped us strategically leverage it to create additional partners and find other partners and in that way grow our work. So we're just tremendously grateful. I think it's not an exaggeration to say we wouldn't be here today as the center we are now if it weren't for the foundation's support, and of course John's leadership has been a key part of that.
Several times that John joined us in Washington at meetings of the CNA Military Advisory Board, where we had the full complement of probably a dozen senior military leaders, as well as our many analysts and our team that worked on the Military Advisory Board on climate and energy security. And John felt so at home with this group, and they welcomed him, and it was a true partnership. He brought his experience of having worked with and for Senator Jackson, having led a major business, and having led the foundation, and his commitment to national and environmental and really natural security issues, which is really Scoop Jackson's legacy. And there, with the military leaders and the assembled team, was really sort of part of fulfilling what I think would have been Senator Jackson's vision were he alive today, to see John, his disciples, with modern day military leaders advancing these important common issues.
John is someone who would come into a room and he has such a presence. He has such a wonderful presence about him that folks immediately pay attention. So he would leverage that presence to get us to think strategically about some of the issues that we were exploring and what it meant for broader application. We worked on issues around security, climate change, public service, engaging the military, and generating new leaders. And John would come into these discussions that could get very technical at times and link to policy and ask about the broader application and what it meant for the Jackson Foundation and its mission overall.
He was one of the first to say we should do this. We should bring the best and brightest young leaders in our community into the organization, train them as best we can in terms of leadership skills, and turn them loose. Let them bring all that energy to the fore in our community and beyond. And as it has developed, and John has watched carefully each class develop its own personality and its own contributions, he has become an even greater devotee, if you will, to their success. And heralding them more broadly in the community and encouraging them to bring all that energy and their positive resources to the issues of the day.
I think the biggest thing about the Fellows Program that I personally am grateful for is the idea that you're making things more accessible for the next generations of leaders. For me, honestly, as a person of color from a marginalized community, it's always been hard to kind of get that leg up. And it isn't as if folks aren't working hard for the opportunities, but being able to have that support is key as well. We talk a lot about the imposter syndrome within the Fellows Program, and I certainly feel that way oftentimes as well. But when you have an advocate like John pushing you forward, but also giving you the advice and the care and the attention you need to develop your personal character, it certainly makes it much more tangible as well. Because oftentimes, you do things and you're not sure if it's the right or wrong thing, but having somebody's guidance and advice like John's makes it easier to kind of move forward, is because you have that confidence instilled in you as well.
I would like to say thank you so much to John Hempelmann for being such a tireless, positive supporter of the Fellows Program. It's your leadership, John, that has made this program what it is. Your intense optimism, your tireless fighting for what you believe is the most important things for the young leaders of my generation and beyond to know and understand, and for your time and willingness to share your vast knowledge of politics and what good leadership means, and how we as young leaders can work through some of the intense challenges that we're facing today. It's people like you, John, that really provide inspiration for people like me.